With policy, foreign policy, military policy, tensions in the Middle East, abortion, homosexuality, pornography, sexual ethics, media, technology, history, and America's godly heritage. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View starts right now.
Across America, live, this is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Thank you for joining us today. Is in the middle of our Truth Team Week, and it is Thursday. This is just a great opportunity for us to chat with you and to hear from you a little bit later in the program as well. We have, as always, in studio with us, Brad Fisk. Brad, it's been a great week, hasn't it?
It has been a great week, thanks. And we're looking forward to seeing what the Lord's going to do today.
Looking forward to chatting, as we will, with our friend Gary Bauer, who, of course, is the president of American Values, an individual that served as the Undersecretary of Education, Chief Domestic Policy Advisor, of course, also the chairman of Campaign for Working Families, and the producer of the End of Day Report. And Brad, you've been using that lately, haven't you?
Yeah, actually, Gary will be happy to hear this, I'm sure. I was informed of that about 3-4 months ago. I think Warren was the one who told me about it. And I signed up and started reading this thing, and I got hooked. It's an incredible source of information, right now information. It's way better reading that than any newspaper or magazine.
It certainly is. Gary Bauer, again, you got a nice endorsement right there from Brad Fisk.
Holy cow, that's fantastic. I better start reading that thing. It sounds really good.
It's great stuff, Gary.
We
we love
few.
doing it, and we get a lot of positive feedback. That, of course, as you guys know, because you're covering the news every day, there's so much going on, and it's tough to rely on big media when we know what their biases are. So anytime Point of View or my little End of Day Report can help people get the real information, that's worthwhile doing, I think.
Well, I always encourage people to get the End of Day Report, and of course, various times we've encouraged people to support you. And one of the things that we've done, Gary, is posted a couple of the clips from the American Values posted material on your website, which is essentially the same as the End of Day Report. And if you want to look at bias, you wonder if the same people were listening to the same speech by Donald Trump, because I'm seeing some people say this really was an outstanding speech before the United Nations. And then you have some individuals, one who actually used to work with Colin Powell, says the worst speech any president has ever made in history. There's not a lot of middle ground between those, are there?
No. And the person that called it the worst speech ever made by a president in history called the last speech that Trump gave the worst speech ever made by a president. Look, I thought all the right people despised it, and all the right people loved it. I saw Franklin Graham thought it was a fantastic speech, and I saw the foreign minister from Venezuela, which your listeners probably know is a country that's got a wonderful history and has been very successful economically, but now is in the throes of a socialist dictatorship that's turning it into an economic basket case. And that foreign minister from Venezuela said that he listened to Trump and he thought for a second he was back in the 1980s listening to Ronald Reagan. Well, he meant that as an insult, but I'm sitting there cheering that we had a speech that sounded like a speech Reagan would give.
Well, again, just a good example of some of the things we're going to be talking about today. Gary's going to be with us for quite some time, and so I hope that as we cover some of these very important issues in the news, you'll also remember, Brad, and that's a good time to remember the fact that we do depend upon you. We are listener-supported, and we come to you from time to time. This is one of those opportunities during Truth Team to encourage you to join with us financially.
Yeah, we formed this Truth Team 360, we call it, because we watch your back. It's kind of like the vision of a compass. And we're looking right and left, up and down, back and forth on your behalf. And this is an opportunity for you to interact with us financially, because we are listener supported, as you said. That's really important to understand that concept.
Well, and so again, we can really want to challenge you to join with us today. The pledge line number is 800-347-5151. And throughout the program today, and we've done this over the last couple of days, we've heard from some of the individuals that have supported us and wanted to hear from them because they want to encourage you to join with us as well.
Point of view, I think, is absolutely necessary because it's a Christian perspective, a biblical worldview perspective on these issues that are so, to me, very scary.
For one thing, I want to say thank you, Kerby, for everything that you have been doing. You are a busy man. You're on so many different projects and programs. I appreciate all the work that you're doing, advocating for the Word of God. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kerby. I really appreciate your program. You cover a lot of issues that a lot of us think about, I'm sure.
Thank you, Kerby. I consider this my school time, so my 2 hours of school each day. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kerby, and I enjoy your show very much. It's quite informative. It makes you really think.
I recently started listening to your broadcast on Point of View, and I really found it interesting because of the different subjects you cover. So thank you for that. Keep it up. I will continue listening.
Point of View. Truth Team 360.
The breadth and depth, and oftentimes covering things that the mainstream media wants to keep secret, and this is why we wanted you today to have a chance to read the end-of-day report, learn a little bit more about the speech by Donald Trump. We're going to talk about, I'm doing this just to give Gary a bad time, the Emmys and a few other things, but just before we get back to some of that, Brad, explain the levels at which people can actually join with us.
Well, a gift of any amount, single gift is fine. Anytime, anywhere, that's not a problem.
That's right.
That's how the Lord's leading. But we do have some monthly opportunities for you, actually. There's $1 a day. Very easy to get your arms around. It's a great introductory way to be helping us. That's $360 for the year. And we've got a free gift from you that is just awesome. It is the Bible Stick. Faith Comes by Hearing puts that out, and we have one just for you, giving at that level or higher. And it's an MP3 player that is preloaded with the audio drama of the New Testament music, sound effects, over 40 voices, a word-for-word translation in the English Standard Version. This is an incredible tool to listen to God's Word, get it into your heart, or maybe, just maybe, give it away to that college student or that trucker who's driving or whatever. But this is an incredible gift. And then we have an anniversary club you can join. We are 45 years old. Did you know that?
Yeah, 45 years.
Yeah,
45
I know you knew
years.
that. So $45 a month.
45th anniversary.
That's right. Would get you into the anniversary club. You receive the Bible Stick. And also we have these booklets that Kerby is writing. They're single topic booklets that can be read in under 10 minutes. Brand new to the ministry. We've just started this. And the first booklet talks about
Sharia law, and that one is one that is now coming out. We'll do transgender issues, immigration, abortion, religious liberty, lots of issues.
And then the Century Club, that's $100 a month. And in addition to the other thank you gifts we mentioned, we're going to give you an Amazon Echo Dot. So tell us a little bit about the Echo Dot.
That is kind of fun. And again, we're coming to a break, so we'll just mention it quickly. We'll get into it a little bit more later. But you can say, Alexa, play Point of View Radio Talk Show. And you've seen us do that, and all of a sudden it starts playing it.
That's
or
right.
you can ask it a question. Or the other day somebody just said, tell me a joke, and tells you a joke. So this is one more thing that we would like to say thank you. We're coming to a break right now, and we need some of you to step forward. We have people right now sitting by the phones. They're waiting to hear from you. So who will be the first one to give us a call? The pledge line is 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. The website is pointofview.net. We are asking you to be the one. 1-in-800 listeners give to Point of View. We ask you to be the one. We come back, we're going to be talking about Gary Bauer about Iran, North Korea, the United Nations, and much more.
Oh, wow. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. Let's go to the phones.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
You know, according to a new U.S. Census Bureau report, the millennial generation has been reversing some of the social trends that were true of previous generations. For example, about 1/3 of all millennials still live with their parents. They also apparently rely on them financially as well. The millennial generation is also postponing marriage, having children later, and buying homes later. Instead, they are pursuing education and various job opportunities. Many of these reverse trends have taken place recently. In 2005, only 25% of those between the ages of 18 and 34 lived with their parents. Today, that number is 34%. To put this in perspective, more people in this age group live with their parents than live with a spouse. Education is one reason for this remarkable change. Young women are much more likely to attain a college degree than just a few decades ago. They're also much more likely to have a full-time job. By contrast, young men are slightly less likely to be employed than in recent past. Another study done by the firm AgeWave in partnership with Merrill Lynch uncovered how much parents were financially helping their adult children. When mom and dad give their adult children $100 here and $200 there, it adds up. The average amount given is $6,800 annually. Some financial counselors suggest that parents reconsider this and instead shore up their own retirement nest eggs. Millennials are also marrying later in life. In 1976, 85% of women and 75% of men had been married by age 29. Today, only 46% of women and 32% of men say they were married before they turned 30. Instead, many more are living together. Cohabitation has grown 12-fold over the last 40 years. These trends show how the millennial generation is changing the world around us. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
Take Kerby and the Point of View team with you on the go with the Point of View app. Search for Point of View Radio at the Apple or Google Play stores. Point of View, Truth Team 360, celebrating 45 years.
I am Kathy Adams, and I am the first vice president of the Eagle Forum and former president of the Texas Eagle Forum. And I am so excited for Kerby Anderson because he is doing a wonderful job carrying on the wonderful mantle and the baton that was passed to him by the wonderful Marlon Maddox. I will never forget listening to Marlon Maddox one day when he was discussing Islam. And this was before 9/11. The man knew into the future the dangers that the American people should understand about Islam. And so that kind of forward thinking, a visionary indeed, was what Marlon Maddox not only knew, but boldly approached, and did it with such grace and intellect. There was never just an emotional response or a knee-jerk reaction. He did his homework 45 years ago. My, how time has passed, but it has been a very productive time, and even today, we continue to look into the future. Keep it up, Kerby. We need you out there.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
Gary Bauer with us by phone, Brad Fisk in studio. And Gary, let me come to you for just a minute, because one of the things that Kathy Adams has done for us over the years is go to these UN conferences. We'll get back to the United Nations itself and the speech, but these UN conferences are so dangerous, and she has helped us report on things that nowhere else do you see those reports. And as you know as well as I do, because of the influence of Marlon Maddox, because of the opportunities of people like Kathy Adams, of course, because of our partnership with you, we've been able to educate individuals about these dangerous UN treaties, haven't we?
Well, that's exactly right, Kerby. I love the catch-all phrase you have there that sort of summarizes what you do, this Truth Team 360, because, you know, there's the obvious things that I think folks anticipate that somebody like you or me are going to talk about, things that are in the headlines, healthcare reform or what's going on with North Korea. But whether it's here in Washington or in places like the United Nations, some of the worst things happen behind closed doors where there's no one there representing the average American, the kind of man or woman that listens to your show and Point of View Radio. And you've done an outstanding job of shining the light on those things and helping people to understand that what's going on with these UN bureaucrats and these various committees and commissions in New York and elsewhere can have an incredibly negative impact on our families, our schools, our values, even our constitutional rights. We've seen in recent years American judges starting to cite international laws that have been made by bureaucrats in the UN and so forth in settling cases that should be settled under the American Constitution. So if you weren't doing anything else, that service of shining a spotlight on these international agencies and on the United Nations is really priceless.
We are talking with Gary Bauer, but Brad Fisk, we also have some really good news.
We
at the
really
moment.
do. It happened just this week. A friend of the station of the program came in and said, "You know what? I've got an $8,000 gift that I would like to give you, but I have a condition. It must be matched dollar for dollar by the listeners, so that can allow us to double the money."
Yes,
basically is what it amounts to. So that is good news, guys. An $8,000 for dollar match. That means that if you give $1 a day, $360 a year, it becomes $720. Boom, just like that. If you give $45 a month, it becomes $90. If you give a single gift of $5, it becomes $10.
Yes.
You see how the math works? It's very simple, but it's important because we really want to get this cleared up by the top of the hour. So we've got several lines open right now for you at 1-800-347-5151, 1-800-347-5151. 5151. You can also give. It counts. You can give at pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net. Click on Be the One and make your gift that way.
You know, one of the things I found is that sometimes people wait until much later, and then they'll tell me every once in a while, well, I went into queue or it was a busy signal. So this is the best time to call right now.
It's a great time to call.
Great opportunity. So again, let's encourage you to do that. We have a number of women, and I guess all women today. We had men yesterday.
Yeah, we got a couple guys, though, on staff. So.
Yeah, so we got some that are sitting there waiting to have you call them. So again, 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. Gary, the first article we posted today on the Point of View website is President Trump's UN speech, which, of course, is a great summary that comes from your end-of-day report. And if you don't mind, I kind of like to work our way through it. He spent some time, first of all, talking about Iran. A lot of people are waiting for what he had to say about North Korea. We'll get to that in just a minute. But I do get the sense that this president is convinced that this is a bad deal and that even though once he did recertify it, I'm not sure he's going to do that again. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you, Kerby. Now, look, he's under incredible pressure from the foreign policy establishment here in the United States and the folks over at the State Department to continue to certify the deal in spite of all the flaws and all the things that we know is going on with Iran right now and promoting terrorism and undermining allies of the United States in the Middle East and so forth. But my sense is, watching him speak about this issue, and then a number of times I've been over to the White House and have been in larger meetings with multiple people and have heard the president address this. I think he thought it was a terrible deal when it was being negotiated, and I think everything that's happened since confirms in his mind that his original judgment was correct. There's some indication that, he can decertify, and that would then give Congress, I think it's 60 days or 90 days, to vote to pass the agreement anyway. The Senate never voted on this. The President Obama, was able to manipulate the process, so there never was an opportunity to vote up and down on the agreement itself. So this would give the Senate an opportunity to do that. I think that would be a great thing to do. All I know, though, for sure, is that under this agreement, we're going to wake up one day, not too far down the road, and we will be facing the same dangers we're now facing with North Korea because of the flaws in the Iranian nuclear deal.
What about North Korea? Because this is another issue as well that he refers to Kim Jong-un as Rocket Man, and that bothered a lot of the commentators out there, to put it mildly. But at the same time, he recognizes that we face an existential threat. And I think the sense that the president has right now is previous presidents have just tried to keep talking, tried diplomatic answers of some sort or another, tried different sanctions. That's not working. So isn't the definition of insanity doing the same thing and expecting different results?
That's exactly the definition. I've been reminding people recently to think about this for just a second. Does anybody think that on Inauguration Day in January of this year, that at the same time the president was being inaugurated, the North Korean scientists suddenly had a breakthrough on their nuclear technology and their ability to build intercontinental ballistic missiles, and now we have this crisis? Of course not. The reason we're in this mess is not because of anything that President Trump has done. It has been because previous United States presidents have not confronted what was going on in North Korea. Our intelligence about what was going on in North Korea was incorrect. And quite frankly, we have regularly offered them bribes exchange for them promising that they won't build nuclear weapons. And now, for the first time, we have a president that's not willing to look the other way. But because of the malfeasance by those other presidents, we don't have many options right now, and he's doing the best he can under a very difficult situation.
We'll continue that conversation with Gary Bauer, but I'm just thinking, Brad, we have a match on the table.
We do.
And this is a great time as you go to a break to give us a call. That number is 800-347-5151. If you value the kind of conversation we have on a regular basis with people like Gary Bauer and others and really want to understand what's going on in the news, I really need to hear from you. 800-347-5151. You can go also, of course, to the website, pointofview.net. How many calls do we want to get this next
We would
segment?
love to get 9 calls in here because I think we have 9 phones.
I think
we
we
want to
could
fill every single phone with at least one caller. That's 1-800-347-5151. 1-800-347-5151. 5151, and also on the internet.
Pointofview.net. Be the one rebuilding truth in a post-truth culture. We need to hear from you. We'll be right back.
Many times we wonder, how much can I really do to change the future? I'm one person, just one. Let me tell you, when you step up today, right now, and give to Point of View, it will amplify your voice like few things can. Your gift will impact more than 1 million people. In fact, nearly 1.5 million people who, like you, believe something in our nation needs to change. Help equip others to stand for biblical values. Be the change we need. And one other person will double the impact of your gift up to $8,000. When you step up with $30 a month, it becomes $720 over the next year. But you have to call now. This match expires today. Visit pointofview.net/team. Choose your level of giving, remembering that whatever you invest will be doubled up to $8,000 today. Pointofview.net/team or call 1-800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. You can do a lot when you step up now. Pointofview.net/team. Point of View will continue after this.
You are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
Truth Team Week, and we encourage your response. 1-800-347-5151. Gary Bauer with us today, and if that doesn't show the urgency, Gary Bauer's not sitting in Washington, D.C. today saying, I wonder what I'm going to do with my day, I have nothing else to do, so I'm going to spend time today on Point of View to help them out. That, I think, illustrates the importance of what we're talking about. Brad Fisk, of course, in studio with us as well.
Just a moment. When I'm done giving the update, I'd like to tell us a little bit about Gary, a little bit of his background, because not everybody may know him. Maybe there's a couple out there, But I want to say thanks to a friend from South Carolina who called in with their gift. Retired, 75 years old. I love your program. I learned so much from you. I just thought I'd mention that. And again, this friend is going to receive the Bible Stick, which is a fully loaded New Testament. And it comes, the player actually is the size of a pack of gum.
Yes.
And it actually plays back. This isn't something you have to load up on another device. Yeah. It's all self-contained.
ESV version.
That's
and
right.
Again, about 40 different voices in there, music and everything. And you can fast forward and everything.
$1 a day, you guys. It becomes $2 a day because we've got an $8,000 match on the table. And this friend who gave the $360, her gift is going to be doubled. 1-800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. Now, back to you.
Yes, well, and I might just mention, too, that some of those individuals answering the phone include my wife, my daughter, one of our interns that was with us this summer, the wife of an individual I interviewed yesterday who came in, as well as some other friends of the ministry. So these, it's kind of all hands on deck because we recognize we're going to get a lot of phone calls today, and we encourage you to make that phone call, 800-347-5151. But, Brad, it probably would be good to mention Gary Bauer, an individual that went to Georgetown College and Georgetown Law School. Okay. We talked about that the other day. We had Debbie Georgiadis on. They were both graduates of Georgetown Law School. Worked in the Reagan campaign and then served first as an undersecretary of education under Bill Bennett. You know who that is.
Yes, absolutely.
And then, of course, was the chief domestic policy advisor. After serving in the Reagan administration, you know him because he was at the Family Research Council, and he was the senior vice president of Focus on the Family, where you used to be.
He was. I was the broadcast director, and I remember many times with Gary in the studio doing what he does best.
And Gary, again, you have, in some respects, a tremendous resume, but also a tremendous heart for these issues. And we've, over the years, had a chance to watch you on television, interview you on radio, read your end-of-day reports, see some of the editorials that will be in things like USA Today or Human Events or wherever it might be. And you are just a great treasure and a resource, and we so gratefully appreciate the fact that you can give us some time today and have given us so much time over the years to really begin to use this megaphone that Marlon Maddox first developed and broadcast to the nation.
Kerby, I can't think of a better place to be today. The typical day I'm dealing with folks up on Capitol Hill, many of whom are not all that happy to see me, and then I'm being interviewed by reporters from the big newspapers, and where most of those come out. So this is like an oasis here for a couple of hours today, which is fantastic. That Bible stick, that sounds like a wonderful thing to have.
It's incredible.
I don't know what the traffic's like there, but the traffic coming into work every morning and going home every night is miserable here in Washington, D.C., like it is in many places around the country. What a better way to use that often lost time in your car than being able to utilize that for God's Word. But, Kerby, let me say something else. I think one of the most difficult things for a Christian who has some resources and a big heart, one of the most difficult things for them is to try to figure out what is the right project or the right organization to give my money to, my hard-earned money. And I think many people have had the experience of giving to something, and then later they're embarrassed by what happened with the money. They hear about a scandal, or they hear about money being misused, or the organization they gave to suddenly isn't there anymore. Well, point of view and your work, you're there every weekday. You're there constantly. They can see and hear every day what their donation is being used for. So it's a great way to not only continue to make sure that you're on the air giving the information that you give out that so many people need to hear, but that our fellow citizens can have some place to go to and get the correct, accurate information, not fake news, but real news. So I hope you don't have to spend all week asking for these funds. This should be an easy decision for, I hope, for countless Americans who care about family, faith, and freedom.
You know, when they talk about investing, sometimes they say past behavior is no guarantee of future performance, but it gives you at least an indication. And Gary, you can think about some of the battles that we've been involved with you in the past, whether it was blocking H.R. 6, which would have banned homeschooling, or whether it was the attempt to really close down all sorts of religious liberty, because we always have, of course, a Kelly Shackelford or somebody like that on our Friday program, or whether it's some of the battles on Capitol Hill where you have come on the program or others have come on the program and say, you know, now is the time to take action. And we had, of course, our Take Action Central, where we would then give you the address or the email of whatever it might be. It might be a member of Congress. It might have been Apple at one time, or Target, or a variety of other individuals. And so you know as well as I do that these successes in the past are an indication of some of the kinds of battles and some of the victories we need to win in the future.
Yeah, Kerby, we ought to put out one of your pamphlets about this, because thinking back over the years when I was both in the Reagan administration and then later at the Family Research Council, and now the work I do for American Values and some other organizations like Christians United for Israel, I can think of many times when I would go on your show and you and I would alert people about something that was happening in Washington that would negatively affect them or positively affect them. We would give them all the information they needed. We would give them that Capitol Hill switchboard number. And then a little later, I'd be on Capitol Hill, and I would be running into dazed congressmen walking out of their offices wondering why all their phone lines were ringing.
I remember those days back in the Focus era.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Let's, if we can, just again hear from some of our listeners that have supported this ministry and want to encourage you to do the same.
I've called him before, and I just wanted to say again what a great show this is. And if all Christians would listen to Point of View, I mean, you can get an education just from listening to the show. It's awesome, and I really appreciate everything you guys do.
At my church, I'm the public affairs representative. I obtain information about political affairs that are going on. And I just wanted to say thank you for your programs. I listen to you every day, and you're really my inspiration to do what I do at my church. I feel capable, mostly from what I learned from your programs.
Just wanted to know how much I appreciate your program. I've been listening to it for several years, and thank you so much for the positions you take, most of all for the wisdom you exhibit, and just keep up the good work.
I just really appreciate your program, and I tell people about it all the time. But because of your program, you know, I've been thinking about attending seminary for some years, and anyway, I started attending VES, Veritas, with Norm Geisler and those guys, and about a third of the way done with a Master of Arts in Theology, and it's I owe you great credit for that.
So I've been listening to y'all for years. I'm not a politico whatsoever. I believe in voting, yes. But if it weren't for y'all, I wouldn't know how to vote. I'm serious. I wouldn't know the first thing about voting, but I do now.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
Great testimonies. I forgot to mention those. Some people said, I didn't know how to vote. You've used this before.
Right, yes.
One individual saying, I'm going to seminary because of this. People running for school board, some running for Congress, one running for the presidency who used to listen, well, actually two running for the presidency that used to listen to this program when they were in school, and on and on and on. We're coming to a break, and when we come back, I want to talk to Gary Bauer about another one here, Hollywood Haters and Constitution Day.
Oh, that's going to be interesting.
That's going to be real interesting. But just before we go to a break, and again, remind our listeners about the fact that we have this $8,000 match on the table.
Let me tell you something we do know. We know that you, the listeners of Point of View, care about these issues, and you care about where your money goes. You're careful about where your money goes. And we know that. We understand that you value that. I'm just simply asking, what do you think about Point of View? What do you think about Continue? We're listener supported. There's no big closets full of money coming from any grants or anywhere else.
No money
not
coming from George
Washington,
Soros.
D.C.
Yeah,
that's
not
right.
from NPR.
And there's an $8,000 match on the table right now. So I'm a little flummoxed why every single line, I actually found out we have 10 lines today, open and ready for business, ready to take your gift. 2 to 3 minute phone call. You don't have to have the money now. This is a pledge of support for the future. So we're asking you to pray and obey. Ask what God would have you do and give us a call. 1-800-347-5151. 1-800-347-5151. You can always give online at pointofview.net.
You certainly can, and don't forget that if you give $30 a month, $360, that whole $360 counts towards the match.
Yeah, the
and
entire month of any monthly gift.
We'll take a break. We'll continue with Gary Bauer right after this.
Welcome to the First Liberty Briefing. I'm Jeremy Dice. Last week, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit, sitting en banc, affirmed the decision of a federal district court judge. That's significant because that judge found no constitutional problem with the county commissioners of Jackson County, Michigan, providing invocations on a rotating basis prior to their commission meetings. In Jackson County, the county commissioners do what most local lawmakers do. They start their meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance and then have an invocation to further solemnize the occasion. But a local activist filed a lawsuit to put an end to the practice, claiming he was offended by the invocation. Well, the Supreme Court has twice spoken to this. Back in 1983, in Marsh v. Chambers, the High Court gave approval to invocations before state legislative bodies. Then in 2014, in Town of Greece v. Galloway, the court approved citizen-led invocations before city council meetings. Both decisions noted America's lengthy tradition of opening public meetings with prayer. But the really interesting part of this story is the circuit split it creates. First Liberty also represents the county commissioners of Rowan County, North Carolina, who have a very similar practice. In July, the Fourth Circuit disapproved of commissioner-led invocations. The Supreme Court usually wants to resolve differences of opinion between circuit courts, so it might take a trip to the Supreme Court before these cases are fully resolved. To learn how First Liberty is protecting religious liberty for all Americans, visit firstliberty.org.
You can learn how to protect religious freedom in the workplace, public schools, your church, the military, and more by downloading First Liberty's free Religious Liberty Protection Kits at firstliberty.org. That's firstliberty.org. If you want hope for religious freedom, go to firstliberty.org.
Point of View, Truth Team 360, celebrating 45 years.
Hey, greetings, everyone. This is Lieutenant Colonel retired and former member of Congress Alan West. I want to take this time to congratulate my dear friend Kerby Anderson and Point of View Radio on achieving 45 years of broadcasting. You know, as a Christian constitutional conservative, I have to tell you that Point of View Radio is a true important output, is a true and important venue for us to be able to learn and know what is happening that affects our lives. And I would encourage you to support Kerby Anderson and Point of View Radio so that he can be around for another 45 years. And he can continue the great work that they have started. So God bless you, Kerby. Thank you so much.
Point of View,
Truth Team 360.
Colonel Alan West, who was, I think, the first person to call in this week.
That's right,
he
was.
actually was a short guest with us. He's actually been a guest host and sat in this chair before. And so he's not just encouraging you to give, but he is encouraging you to follow his lead and to give as well. 1-800-347-5151. Gary Bauer with us, of course, in studio with us, Brad Fisk.
Yeah, and we have $7,200 remaining of that match. So carved out a little bit. But guys, we'd love to get this cleared up by the top of the hour, so we got to really get on our horse and ride. There's so many things that we talk about, and I was thinking about this issue and how it fits with point of view. There's a multitude of churches, Kerby, and we know there's a dangerous drifting toward being all-inclusive. They're saying it's okay to toss out verses that are not all-inclusive, verses like, how would you like these verses to go away, like they want? Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. John 14:6. In Acts 4:12, and there is no salvation in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved. Ladies and gentlemen, they're trying to redefine truth and get rid of it. And we stand as a bulwark in the fight. And Gary, you understand that better than most, I think, about this fight. I mean, this is real. The opposition is strong and trying to grow stronger.
Gary, kind of a spiritual battle you face up there in Washington, D.C.
Well, it certainly is a spiritual battle. Often it doesn't make sense unless you remind yourself that at the end of the day, it's spiritual. You both have touched on something really significant here, I think. I'm used to, and I'm sure you are too, doing battle with, the pro-abortion movement and the radical secularists and the very aggressive atheist movement that exists in the United States now. And that's all to be expected. But there are problems inside the church. There's just no question about that. And people inside the church want to water down the gospel. There's, I think, a false ecumenicalism. I'm all for cooperating with people of different types of Christian beliefs and faiths and so forth, but not on the fundamental tenets of our religion. And so there's a lot of very serious things going on in 2017, which is why, again, outlets like Point of View and the work that you're doing, Kerby and Brad, and hopefully the work I'm doing here in Washington ends up making a big difference for not only our fellow citizens now, but for our children and grandchildren in the future.
Well, again, we encourage you to join with us. And again, if you join at that level, the Century Club level, $100 a month, as we point out before, you receive the Bible stick that both Gary and Brad have been talking about, as well as the pocket-sized booklets that are coming out monthly, a subscription, but also the Echo Dot. And this is something we wanted to do because we are recognizing the new technologies, and this is one more way we can put something in your home that would allow you not only listen to Point of View, but have access to all sorts of other very important audio recordings and other resources that you could have access to.
If 5 of you join right now, the match will be cleared up. We'll have the entire match done, and we'll be able to put $8,000 into our total. Because right now, until you call and you give, the match does not go into our total. It is outside and not inside Point of View. So it's critical that you call 1-800-347-5151, 1-800-347-5151. You can trust us. We will take care of your funds very carefully.
I probably need to send a bottle of Pepto-Bismol to Gary now for this question, but did you see the Emmy Awards on Sunday? Because one of the articles we've posted here by Gary Bauer is Hollywood Haters and Constitution Day. It's bad enough that the people in Hollywood want to make fun of Christians, make fun of conservatives, but to do it on Constitution Day, the 230th anniversary of our Constitution, I knew that you have some comments about that.
Well, I have to tell you, Kerby, I cannot tell a lie like George Washington. Most years, all the things I write about, I force myself to watch them or listen to them.
Oh, you finally decided not to. Yeah.
On this one, I actually had one of the people on my staff that I pay go through that. I told him this was the price of having a career along with me. and then we talked about it the next morning. But I did go back then and look at
some of the clips. Yes.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, Kerby, every year I think it can't get any worse. And every year it gets worse. It used to be that periodically there'd be an isolated left-wing joke or attack on conservatives or Christians or pro-lifers or pro-family people. This year's Emmys, it was just one attack after the other, and to watch all these self-satisfied liberals in Hollywood laughing at each other's jokes, while at the same time attendance at movies and viewership of so-called mainstream TV shows continues to sink because they're so far out of step with the values of the American people. So it's pretty sad to see, and it makes me value even more those few conservatives that do manage to live in Hollywood and continue to be faithful in their faith, and but also are able to do all the things you do in Hollywood to build a career.
Brad, you talked about drift just a minute ago. This is like falling off the cliff kind of
yes,
thing. I mean,
absolutely
but this is a drift that we have noticed for some time. And, if you've ever been out on a raft on the ocean, and you just float for a while, sometimes you'll notice that, well, I was way over here and the current is just taking me over there. And this whole current of our culture is taking us in the wrong direction. And this is why we want to emphasize, as we do here on Point of View, some of the Christian films that have come out, some of those that have really good values, and we have some of those actors in here. Of course, we also want to talk about some of the political issues, the cultural issues. All of it comes together, and that's what Point of View is all about.
It is, and I was even thinking of the bathroom bill. Many people, they said it's gone away. It's done. We took care of that, and it's all done. It's not.
If you had just even 5 years ago, Gary, had somebody say we would be having a debate over bathrooms, I think even you and I would have go, I don't think so, but that's exactly where we are. Yep. We're coming to a break, and we want to come back and talk more about this because we've only posted a few of the articles, and Gary Bauer is going to stay with us. Again, he's got something else he could be doing, but he's certainly spending time with us today. But, Brad, just before we go to this top of the hour, we have a very significant match that we need to meet, and this time as we go to a break would be a great time to make that phone call.
It is. The match just a bit over $7,000 yet to go, and every dollar you give, a single gift or a monthly gift, will be doubled, and especially those monthly gifts, we count all 12 months of the gift. So those are very significant. 1-800-347-5151, toll free, 1-800-347-5151. And you can always go to pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net. Click on Be the One and make your gift.
Well, this is why we really need to hear from you right now. We have, of course, a match on the table, but back in the whole issue of making sure that we actually proclaim truth in a post-truth culture. If you believe what we're doing here and believe the content that we provide to you, we do, without hesitation, ask you to call 800-347-5151.
We want to blitz the phones. 10 people.
10
Could
calls.
10 of you go right now to the telephones?
Many times we wonder, how much can I really do to change the future? I'm one person, just one. Let me tell you, when you step up today, right now, and give to Point of View, it will amplify your voice like few things can. Your gift will impact more than 1 million people. In fact, nearly 1.5 million people who, like you, believe something in our nation needs to change. Help equip others to stand for biblical values. Be the change we need. And one other person will double the impact of your gift up to $8,000. When you step up with $30 a month, it becomes $720 over the next year. But you have to call now. This match expires today. Visit pointofview.net/team. Choose your level of giving, remembering that whatever you invest will be doubled up to $8,000 today. pointofview.net/team or call 1-800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. You can do a lot when you step up now. pointofview.net/team. Point of View will continue after this.
I I just thank God for y'all. I listen to you every day, truly. I wanted to thank y'all for everything you do each day to inform Christian families and our community about the things we can do, and just the way you're so informative. I listen to you daily and love you guys and appreciate you so much.
God bless you, Kerby, for keeping this show so on track and for the decades of wonderful help to this nation that Point of View has been. We're all big fans of your work, and we pray that God will just prosper it.
As a Christian, over the years that I've followed this program, I am constantly challenged to be on guard and to evaluate what's going on. And if for no other reason, to protect the caliber and the truth of your programming, I need to participate and to back your program financially to ensure that the truth stays out there for people to hear, to view, and to be a part of.
This is Point of View Radio.
Hi, this is Kerby Anderson. You know, each day we take on the tough issues and provide a biblical perspective to them. The topics we cover are wide-ranging. Apologetics, theology, prophecy, creation and evolution, intelligent design, marriage, family, child-rearing, the millennial generation, trends in society, politics, economics, business, religious liberty, the Constitution, public policy, foreign policy, military policy, tensions in the Middle East, abortion, homosexuality, pornography, sexual ethics, media, technology, history, and America's godly heritage. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View continues right now.
Across America, live. This is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Thursday edition of Truth Team Week, and if you would like to join with us, we would like to hear from you. 800-347-5151. If you just happen to be joining us, we have been talking with our good friend Gary Bauer, who is the president of American Values, and we spent a little bit of time even reminding you of the work that he did in the Reagan administration and earlier with groups like the Family Research Council and Focus on the Family. Of course, now heads up American Values. Posted a couple of his articles, one on President Trump's UN speech, another one on Hollywood haters and Constitution Day. We have a lot more to talk to him about, but also, of course, we have in studio with us Brad Fisk. And for those of you that are just joining us, we have an $8,000 match on the table. We've begun to make some progress, but it is amazing to me, and maybe even a little bit perplexing, about how it always takes the entire 2 hours and sometimes takes the last part of the show to reach that match. But that's nevertheless been the case
Human
this
nature,
time.
here you go.
Yes, here we go.
Hey, so here's what's happening. We started with an $8,000 dollar-for-dollar match, and we're now down to the good news is we're just about halfway there.
Yes.
So we have $4,725 to go, and as you give, every dollar you give, a single gift or a monthly gift, will go to that match. So your dollar a day at $360 becomes $720 to the ministry. That is an awesome multiplier, and you can do that by giving your very best gift at 1-800-347-5151, 1-800-347-5151. And we have some free gifts for you that you can look at online and give as well. Pointofview.net, pointofview.net.
You know, it's been 45 years since Marlon Maddich started the program back in 1972. A little bit later this hour, we're going to have a chance to hear some interchange between Marlon Maddix and Chuck Colson.
Oh, that'll be fun.
And I might just mention that's why we created the Anniversary Club, which is $45 a month, where you receive not only the Bible stick, but also these booklets. Each month you'll receive a new one. The latest one here is on Sharia law. And that not only talks about Sharia law in other countries, but how we've been able to document at least 50 different times in which Sharia law has been used as an interpretation or as a judgment here in the country. Last hour, we heard Gary Bauer talking about how some of these judges use international law. I have a solution for that. Let's put different judges on the courts. But,
there's a good idea.
There's a good idea. So we'll get talking about that with Gary in just a minute. But Gary, let me come to you for just a minute as we talk about why people should give. There are people saying, well, I listen to Point of View, but why should I give to this ministry? Do you have any ideas?
Well, I do. I get that question about my work in Washington. You know, I'm not sure. I think some folks think that folks like you and me just do these things out of the goodness of our hearts, and somebody else must be paying the bills. I don't know, but look,
I've seen you in some of your fundraising, knowing that you're just saying, "What is happening?" I'm not hearing from anybody,
as I like to say.
Oh my goodness! But I can really feel for you and the frustration of how hard this is to do, but. Look, let me remind your listeners of something that I think they're aware of, which is that not only are conservative and Christian voices being censored in many cases out of Hollywood, we know what's happening on the university campuses. It's often the case that on big media, the networks and so forth, you don't see characters on sitcoms and dramas for whom faith is really important. That's less and less common to see. And now we're hearing that in the big new media, the social media, whether it's Facebook or Google or Twitter and so forth, increasingly there's evidence that conservative and faith-based views are being pushed aside and discriminated against. And so literally we're in a situation, Kerby, where the worldview that you represent may end up being either. So we have to have an antidote to the blacking out of these kinds of traditional ideas. And one of the strongest antidotes I know is point of view. And you don't run on fumes. You can't run on just goodwill. Like every other enterprise, you've got to be able to pay your staff, the people to do the research, the producers to put on the show, the folks to get all the information correct. There's all the equipment that you need. All these things cost money. And I would ask your listeners to think about the fact that right now there's probably somebody whose worldview is completely different than yours, who's writing a check out to some far-left, pro-abortion group that is against religious liberty, is against all the things you stand for. And we need to have the same type of checks written out to support you, Kerby, and the work that you're doing to counter what many of these far-left organizations are trying to do around the country. So that would be the main reason that I would ask people right now while they're thinking about it, before something else distracts them. Just go to the phone, make that quick phone call. There's good people waiting to get the call. And I'll tell you, you'll not only make Kerby's day, you're going to make my day when he tells me that we met the match while I was on the air.
Amen. 1-800-347-5151. Thanks for those good words, Gary. 1-800-347-5151. And you can give at pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net.
You know, some other people might say, well, are there some other reasons? And one that occurred to us is, we've talked about how we cover issues that no one else does. But you think about it, a lot of that is intentional. There's a real desire to do a lot of this in the secrecy of the halls of Congress, to do some of this in the secrecy of the production studios in Hollywood. And so many times we at Point of View hear about this, or I read about it in the End of Day Report by Gary Bauer. And it's amazing sometimes, even though I'm in the news, there'll be things I'll find in Gary's End of Day Report. I go, I didn't know about that. Oh, we're going to cover that one tomorrow. And Gary gets quoted even when he's not on the air.
That's right.
And then you can shine the light on it. And then these people sort of scatter like cockroaches for a while. But then they find another dark corner. And this is something that is really important, that because there is such an attempt now to keep a lot of these decisions away from you, that's, I think, just another compelling reason to support organizations that shine the light in some of these dark areas of our society.
I totally agree. Where else are you going to get a value like this? We have a match challenge on the table. Over $4,000 remaining. We're going to give you 100% return on your money today, guaranteed at 100% ROI. There's no bank in the world that'll give you that kind of deal. And that's the deal you get right here at Point of View today, thanks to a friend of the ministry that made this match challenge possible. Ladies and gentlemen, please get the vision if you would. We're asking you, you're our donors, you're our heroes. It is you that keep this going. We recognize that. We know that you want us to be very careful with your funds and use them the most effective way we know how. Well, we've got a track record of 45 years, so we're asking you to invest in the ministry of Point of View. 1-800-347-5151. 1-800-347-5151 and online at pointofview.net.
Be the one, and you can click on that banner. But we do need to hear from you. We have an $8,000 match on the table, about half of it taken care of. We need you to finish us off. 800-347-5151. We'll be right back.
Every dollar doubled.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
You know, according to a new U.S. Census Bureau report, the millennial generation has been reversing some of the social trends that were true of previous generations. For example, about 1/3 of all millennials still live with their parents. They also apparently rely on them financially as well. The millennial generation is also postponing marriage, having children later, and buying homes later. Instead, they are pursuing education and various job opportunities. Many of these reverse trends have taken place recently. In 2005, only 25% of those between the ages of 18 and 34 lived with their parents. Today, that number is 34%. To put this in perspective, more people in this age group live with their parents than live with a spouse. Education is one reason for this remarkable change. Young women are much more likely to attain a college degree than just a few decades ago. They're also much more likely to have a full-time job. By contrast, young men are slightly less likely to be employed than in recent past. Another study done by the firm AgeWave in partnership with Merrill Lynch uncovered how much parents were financially helping their adult children. When mom and dad give their adult children $100 here and $200 there, it adds up. The average amount given is $6,800 annually. Some financial counselors suggest that parents reconsider this and instead shore up their own retirement nest eggs. Millennials are also marrying later in life. In 1976, 85% of women and 75% of men had been married by age 29. Today, only 46% of women and 32% of men say they were married before they turned 30. Instead, many more are living together. Cohabitation has grown 12-fold over the last 40 years. These trends show how the millennial generation is changing the world around us. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
Take Kerby and the Point of View team with you on the go with the Point of View app. Search for Point of View Radio at the Apple or Google Play stores. Point of View, Truth Team 360, celebrating 45 years.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio. I've been listening to Point of View radio program almost since it started 45 years ago. I remember as a teenager working for my dad, Don Wildman, and having the printing machine on, the offset machine, which was very, very loud at the time. And I would turn that radio up even louder so I could hear Marlon Maddox, Kerby Anderson, and everybody there at Point of View. We really appreciate you guys. God bless you. May you continue to have 45 more years of ministry.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
Brad Fisk, a great story from Tim Wildman.
I love that story. I really do. And hey, I want to put a challenge out. If you're listening on an American Family radio station right now, I'm going to challenge you to pick up the phone and give us a call right now at 1-800-347-5151, 1-800-347-5151, and help us stay on the air. Help us to continue to do what we do best, which is take care of your back and watch what's going on in all of the issues swirling around. 800-347-5151, and we have a $3,115 yet to go on the match. We're getting there, but we need your help to get us over the top.
Well, we're making progress, but certainly we want to encourage your response. And Gary Bauer, for just a minute, I also thought you might want to comment on another article we posted. It's not by you, but it has to do with the fact that here you have the House Minority Leader, Nancy Pelosi, speaking at a press conference, and she's being shouted down by some of those who were upset that she might actually make a deal with President Trump on DACA, which is the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Shouts her down so much she finally leaves her own press conference. This, I think, illustrates as well as anything how radical the left, and I mean the left, not just liberals, the left and the radical left has become, that even the possibility that a Chuck Schumer or a Nancy Pelosi might actually work to reach across the aisle and come up with a compromise, which, by the way, you and I probably don't like, was just so much that she couldn't even finish her own press conference. If that doesn't illustrate the need for point of view, I don't know what does.
It was a really telling moment, Kerby. You're absolutely right. I mean, nobody is going to challenge Nancy Pelosi's liberal credentials, but the very fact that she would sit down in the Oval Office along with Senator Chuck Schumer and some other congressional leaders and the president and agree that they would take a look at this issue and see if they could find some common ground resulted in her being treated at this event that you referred to. Well, let's see. It resulted in her being treated the way every conservative is treated who goes to an American university, except in comparison, those conservatives are treated even worse. I did think it was very ironic. And, you know, one of the things that's interesting to remember here is that when conservatives go to university campuses and try to speak and go to other events, they're not only shut it down. I mean, there's been physical violence, and all too often Nancy Pelosi and the other leaders of the left in America have been unwilling to condemn that, have said, well, that's the right of those students to do it. Well, she got a taste of her own medicine at this event, and as you said, after about a half hour of being shouted down, she finally packed up and was unable to finish her remarks. It's sad, Kerby, that this is what's happening in the country, this attack on free speech and the free exchange of ideas, and a really tremendous radicalism on the left. And the solution to that is to speak the truth about what's going on the left, whether it's in Congress, on our university campuses, in our popular entertainment, or on our courts, wherever it shows its face. And that's exactly what you and Point of View does.
Might just mention again, we've posted a couple of the articles from the End of Day Report by Gary Bauer at American Values, and those links will allow you to sign up, just as Brad did recently.
Yep, I did.
And then also, of course, we have this article that's about 4 pages long by Rachel Alexander. We'll probably have her on in the future to talk about that. But I thought for just a minute we would step back to look to the future, because one of the things that Marlon Maddox and others, of course, around this table have done are really to look ahead at what would happen in the future. And this is from about 15 years ago, in which Marlon Maddox had a chance to talk with Chuck Colson. And as you hear this clip, and then one we'll play a little bit later, you would think it was recorded yesterday, and this is from 15 years ago.
Chuck Colson is with us. Chuck, you talk in your book about Oprah. I call it the Oprahification of society. All we got to do is sit down, have a good cry, and everything's going to work out.
Exactly right. You've got it. You've just put it better than I did. That's exactly what it is, and it's the idea that we have this high priestess, the confessor, who can make us feel good by just the therapeutic approach of letting all of our problems come out and no demands. And we've Oprahified religion in America. We've made it easy believism, and this is calling. This book is calling. Ellen and I are calling for people to get serious. This is not. We're not playing games here. We're talking about the God of the universe. We're talking about the Creator. We're talking about the majesty of the one who breathed us into existence, and to live our lives in a way that makes a difference, and to understand how crucial the role of the church is. You know, one of the things that bothers me, Marlon, is that people, particularly evangelicals, have a shamefully casual view about the church. Mm-hmm. We think it's just a place we can go if we feel like going, or if we don't feel like going, we can still make up our own. We can still feel spiritual without going to church. Put that in quotes. That's missing the whole point. We're part of the church. It's what we live for. It is central. Luther said you can't live the Christian life apart from the church. Mm-hmm. Calvin said to withdraw from a church for no good reason is an act of treason. So people in our age just aren't taking it seriously enough.
Again, that was Marlon Maddox interviewing Chuck Colson about 15 years ago. And, of course, Marlon Maddox, the founder, and, of course, you can go all the way back to 45 years ago. I remember the first time I did interviews with Marlon in 1980, all the way up until when I began to be the guest host in 1986, and we were talking about these issues. But, again, if you would like to join with us, we would love to hear from you, and we need to hear from you right now, 800-347-5151. Gary Bauer with us, but let me just play one other part of this interview. And again, remind yourself that they were talking about this 15 years ago.
A lot of us would like to believe all we have to do is sit down and talk to individuals about our faith and about Jesus Christ, heaven and hell, and the person will believe it and accept Christ. But, Chuck, you and I both know that in the culture we're living in now, from the media, academia, the public schools, everything is against the teaching of a belief in God and moral absolutes.
Oh, absolutely.
So, like you say, the churches have got to get back to the point of reinforcing and inculcating a hardcore Christian worldview into the minds of these kids.
You got to remember that this is what is called a postmodern culture.
Yes.
That is, it has rejected not only faith, which was historically the basis of knowledge, but it's rejected reason, and it says there is no such thing as truth. And people are buying this lock, stock, and barrel. The only way you're going to begin to communicate with people is to be talking about the existence of truth. We can't tell them about Jesus, who says, I am the truth, unless they believe there is such a thing as truth.
That's right. That's right.
So it's like speaking to today, to preach in America is like preaching in a foreign country.
So again, Brad, just incredible, isn't it?
It's prophetic. I mean, you could be saying all those words. They could be in here in the studio saying those words, and it would be applicable to today. What better illustration to say why Point of View should continue to exist, continue to do the job it does, because it is so vital that we be informed of truth with a capital T. That means biblical truth to me. So 1-800-347-5151. If you believe what I just said, then would you show it by your phone call? 1-800-347-5151. We're down to crunch time. We've got a $3,000 match remaining from that original $8,000. Thank you to all who've responded so far, but don't stop now. If you're not a part of the Truth Team 360, give us a call, won't you? 1-800-347-5151. We have some thank you gifts for you at different giving levels. Go to pointofview.net to look at those. Pointofview.net. You could even make your gift there as well.
You certainly can. Pointofview.net. Gary Bauer with us still, and we will come back and chat a little bit with him because I'd love to get his thoughts about how to rebuild truth in a post-truth culture. And here, 15 years ago, hearing about the word postmodernism. Amazing. I think most people now know what that is, but back then that was all prophetic.
Cutting edge.
And maybe Gary and I can put on our prophet hat for just a minute and say what's going to be in the future and see if we can begin to discern some of those other battles we're going to be fighting as well. Again, you can join us, and we need to hear from you. We still have a match on the table. 800-347-5151. Every dollar doubled. 800-347-5151.
Many times we wonder, how much can I really do to change the future? I'm one person, just one. Let me tell you, when you step up today, right now, and give to Point of View, it will amplify your voice like few things can. Your gift will impact more than 1 million people. In fact, nearly 1.5 million people who, like you, believe something in our nation needs to change. Help equip others to stand for biblical values. Be the change we need. And one other person will double the impact of your gift up to $8,000. When you step up with $30 a month, it becomes $720 over the next year. But you have to call now. This match expires today. Visit pointofview.net/team. Choose your level of giving, remembering that whatever you invest will be doubled up to $8,000 today. Pointofview.net/team or call 1-800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. You can do a lot when you step up now. Pointofview.net/team. Point of View will continue after this.
You are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
Final half hour today, and it is again a great opportunity for you to participate. It is Truth Team Week, and we are privileged to still have with us Gary Bauer. I want to get some of his comments in just a minute. But in studio, Brad Fisk. How are we doing on the match?
Well, we're making some progress. We're down to $2,320 left to go of the original $8,000 match, and it'll be taken care of. We don't want to leave any money on the table, and I'm especially calling out you from American Family Radio. If you're listening on one of their stations, we would ask especially for you to step up and help us. And again, that phone number is 1-800-347-5151. I call it the match line this afternoon, 1-800-347-5151. You can also give at pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net. Gary Bauer, first of all, let me say I'm really glad you're on our side. Okay, just to make clear here, I'm really glad you're on our side.
Thank you, Brad.
Could you once again approach the whole idea of the future of Point of View? We've been on for 45 years. We're looking for another 45, but I'd love to hear from you another compelling reason why someone should financially invest in our ministry.
Well, Brad and Kerby, it's my pleasure to do that. For years, when I was working much more closely than I'm able to now, would focus on the family, and at that time under the incredible leadership of Dr. James Dobson, we used to talk about the road that the country was on and what it would mean if we stayed on that road. And the conversations we would have were much like the conversation we just heard you replay, Kerby, between Marlon Maddox and Chuck Colson. And I recall very well that at the time we were having those kinds of conversations and interviews, often good men and women of faith would say, gosh, I love you guys, but aren't you kind of getting a little silly and exaggerating what's going on? I mean, it's not that bad. Well, here we are 15, 20 years later, and things that Chuck used to talk about, Marlon did, Dr. Dobson, myself, those things have been long lost, and we're now in territory that was unimaginable 15 years ago.
That's true.
I do not think it's an exaggeration to say that I believe whether America continues to survive as a constitutional republic built on the idea that our liberty does not come from government, but comes from God. That's what it says in our Declaration of Independence, that we are created by our Creator who has endowed us with certain rights, that idea is literally up for grabs, and it probably will be settled one way or the other in the next 5 to 10 years.
Wow.
That's right.
Talk about talking truth. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for that. Hey, quick phone number, 1-800-347-5151. If you believe what Gary just said is true, guys, gals, we really need to hear from you. Join the Truth Team, 1-800-347-5151.
Gary, I'll do you one better. I was looking this up right now to just make sure I said it correctly. You remember when you and Dr. Dobson wrote a book called Children at Risk, and I looked up when it came out, 1992, so that was 25 years ago. 25 years ago, and that was a book that started a lot of people going, you and Dr. Dobson are getting awful political, and and you really are starting to maybe believe your own hype, and yet if you were to put the book Children at Risk in the hands of any parent today, they'd go, wow, well, that's where we are.
Yeah.
That was written 25 years ago.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing, Gary?
25 years ago, I was a mere child.
I had forgotten it was 1992 till I looked it up, and I said, that is that long ago. That's just amazing.
Look, we got a lot of people that thanked us for the book, but we also got a lot of blowback about the book. People that said it was too depressing, too negative. We were exaggerating things. And look, to be completely honest about it, I mean, I was very happy the number of copies that were sold. We were on the New York Times bestseller list for a while. But as Dr. Dobson was quick to tell me, it sold fewer books than any book he had ever written. And so, because we were dealing with something that I think even today a lot of men and women of faith just don't want to think about.
That's right.
And that is our obligation to be Christian citizens, to be in the public square and argue for the values that are derived from our deeply held faith about where liberty comes from and what this country is all about. So the hour is late. The issues are great. We're seeing the problems the country has. What's the basis of racial reconciliation? That's in the headlines these days. We all want racial reconciliation. Well, I'll guarantee you it's not going to be accomplished with some law passed in Washington. All those laws were already passed. The basis of racial reconciliation is that we were all made in the image of God. And it doesn't matter how short you are or tall you are, how much money you have in the bank, or what the color of your skin is. Because you were made in the image of God,
That's right.
You have dignity and value and worth. So on all the major issues, our Judeo-Christian values and the teachings of our faith in both the Old and New Testaments has the answers, and you hear those answers expressed more effectively and with an articulate way of presenting it on Point of View better than you're going to hear it anyplace else.
Amen. Hey, quick update on the match. Thanks for those kind words. Over $2,000 still to go. We have not made the match yet, you guys, so please don't give up on us. Give us a call, won't you? Because every dollar, a single gift or a monthly gift, will be doubled up to $2,320 right now. 1-800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. 5151, and online you can give at pointofview.net, pointofview.net.
Let's, if we can, once again hear from a few of our listeners that have supported this ministry and want to encourage you to do the same.
When my children were very small, I started listening, and even before they were school-aged, my eyes started being opened, and I started realizing that there was another religion being taught in our public schools, and I just wanted to let y'all know today I am joining. I just feel like that if the information is not there, then a lot of other ministries will not even have a chance to be where they are and do what they do.
Hey, I just wanted to say I'm really grateful for your show. I am increasingly dismayed at not only the slanted coverage that mainstream media provides, but the lack of coverage. And I currently give money to some Christian organizations, and I give somewhat to you guys, but I'm going to increase that amount because I think you guys are so important.
Yeah, I've been a regular listener to Point of View, Kerby Anderson, Penedexter, and it's been a very positive experience, and there's a lot of very relevant subjects that they invite you to have a response or reaction to or conversation about. And it's not edited. It's very free and open and very respectful dialogue.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
If you'd like to join with us, 1-800-347-5151. Just a minute, I want to talk to Gary Bauer again. Has served as the Undersecretary of Education. I remember the first time I watched him in one of these congressional hearings with Bill Bennett, and I'm talking about what was in the textbooks, but now all the things that are taught in the schools. I remember when Gary Bauer also ran for the presidency, he would go into these schools, and the level of, let's put it this way, biblical illiteracy, constitutional illiteracy, even cultural illiteracy was mind-blowing. So I want to get some comments from him in just a minute on those as well because of his expertise. And one of our callers talked about, I just realized there's sort of a false religion being taught in the schools, and this is why we need to get involved. It's the future of our kids. It's the future of our grandkids, isn't it?
Yeah, really, reaching out to, listen, you grandparents, just put your hands gently around the face of that little one, looking you in the eyes and calling you grandma or grandpa, and just think about what is in store for them for the future. I have 21 grandkids, and I think about that all the time, and I pray for them, and I ask for God's protection on them. But you know what? We need programs like Point of View to keep us informed. If we don't know, if we're ignorant of the issues, then we're going to get God's worst, maybe, but not God's best, possibly. But, no fear here. No fear, no discouragement, but encouragement. 1-800-347-5151. 1-800-347-5151. Kerby, the match isn't done yet.
Yeah, it is not, and we certainly need to hear from you. When we come back, I think we have some people online that would like to live tell us how they have just given to this ministry, and they want to challenge you to do the same. But we're coming to a break. This is a perfect time to call, so please do so. 800-347-5151. Every dollar is doubled. We need to hear from you. 800-347-5151.
Welcome to the First Liberty Briefing. I'm Jeremy Dice. Last week, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit, sitting en banc, affirmed the decision of a federal district court judge. That's significant because that judge found no constitutional problem with the county commissioners of Jackson County, Michigan, providing invocations on a rotating basis prior to their commission meetings. In Jackson County, the county commissioners do what most local lawmakers do. They start their meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance and then have an invocation to further solemnize the occasion. But a local activist filed a lawsuit to put an end to the practice, claiming he was offended by the invocation. Well, the Supreme Court has twice spoken to this. Back in 1983, in Marsh v. Chambers, the High Court gave approval to invocations before state legislative bodies. Then in 2014, in Town of Greece v. Galloway, the court approved citizen-led invocations before city council meetings. Both decisions noted America's lengthy tradition of opening public meetings with prayer. But the really interesting part of this story is the circuit split it creates. First Liberty also represents the county commissioners of Rowan County, North Carolina, who have a very similar practice. In July, the Fourth Circuit disapproved of commissioner-led invocations. The Supreme Court usually wants to resolve differences of opinion between circuit courts, so it might take a trip to the Supreme Court before these cases are fully resolved. To learn how First Liberty is protecting religious liberty for all Americans, visit firstliberty.org.
You can learn how to protect religious freedom in the workplace, public schools, your church, the military, and more by downloading First Liberty's free Religious Liberty Protection Kits at firstliberty.org. That's firstliberty.org. If you want hope for religious freedom, go to firstliberty.org.
Point of View, Truth Team 360, celebrating 45 years.
Hey, Point of View audience, this is Nick Pitts of the Millennial Roundtable, and I just want to say thank you so much to Kerby Anderson for the opportunity to be able to serve alongside him, and thank you to you, the listeners. For 45 years, Point of View has been sowing seeds of truth all across this great United States, and we are just so thankful that you have supported us and so thankful that you've been listening to us. But we also want to open up the opportunity for you as well to participate with us, whether through your prayers or financially as well. So thank you again.
Point of View, Truth Team 360,
Dr. Nick Pitts, an individual, joins us every Wednesday, or almost every Wednesday, for our Millennial Roundtable, and that's just one more feature of Point of View that you are supporting. We have a whole millennial group of individuals. Now, yesterday we didn't quite, we had more old adults and more older guys than we normally have, but we again are really recognizing the future to really begin to program for the future, and this millennial generation is certainly one that needs biblical truth and biblical perspective. Nick Pitts, one of those individuals, serves oftentimes as the host or guest host, and so it's just, again, an opportunity to hear from him as well. We need to actually have you join with us, 800-347-5151. We're down to the last few hours of the whole Truth Team, and in this particular program, the last few minutes before we go off the air today.
A little under $2,000 remains at risk. By the top of this hour, we need to have the match done. Whatever doesn't come in doesn't go into the total. So we have to honor the donors' wishes on that. So here's the phone number. If you'd like to not see any of that money go away, there's a little over $2,000 to go on the match. 800-347-5151, toll free, 1-800-347-5151. You can also give at pointofview.net. We have some great thank you gifts at different giving levels monthly, and you can see those and all explained at pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net.
Gary, let me come back to you. You served as the Undersecretary of Education. You've watched education for years. And let's at least give some credit that sometimes we've been able to prevent legislation that would have banned homeschooling or hamstrung Christian schools. And we've been able maybe to slow the advance of comprehensive sex education. But if there's another reason to support Point of View, it's that the school system in America isn't where it needs to be, and you are fully aware of the fact that we have a whole generation that are really losing our sense of historical perspective and instead drinking deeply into some of the ideas of political correctness, aren't they?
That's a great summary, and it's absolutely true. We get examples of this every day. I mean, kids being taught anti-American history instead of American history. I saw years ago in my visits to high schools that most American kids did not know that key second sentence in the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths. We were talking about this, this flight away from truth. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's the central idea of America. But in a culture that doesn't believe in truth, and in a society that where most of our schools are not teaching those words anymore. When I grew up in a hard-bitten, blue-collar Midwestern town in sort of a poor area decades ago, we all knew those words in the Declaration of Independence. Today, many of our kids don't. There was a study last week. This is Constitution Week, and last Sunday was Constitution Day, and depressingly large numbers of our population, percentages of our population, particularly our young people, don't know anything about the separation of powers. They can't name the three branches of government. They don't know the basics of what the American Republic is all about. And so that does require, as a society, for us to teach some of these things in our churches, through homeschooling, Christian schools, by Christian teachers in the public schools that have the courage to do it, but also on outlets like Point of View and other types of publications and radio and TV shows where we can find them that can hold the line on all of this and make sure that enough of our children are learning about the fact that our liberty comes from God if we want this republic to survive.
I used that the other day when we talked about the University of Pennsylvania's Annenberg Public Policy Center. They found 33%, or a third of Americans, could not name one of the three branches of government.
Oh, my goodness.
And these people vote. This is not... Well, maybe some of them don't. I don't know. But, Gary, we've got an education responsibility, and that's what Point of View's been doing for 45 years, and we're going to be doing it in the future. And we recognize, as we talked about with Nick Pitts the other day, there are more millennials that have a Facebook page than have registered to vote. So we got a lot more to do, and that's kind of what the future is for Point of View, to do more and more education. And if you believe in that, as we go off the air here in just a minute, we need to hear from you. 800-347-5151, bringing light to dark places. And so, again, we'd love to hear from you as well. And, again, we can also encourage you to go to the website, pointofview.net. And so, Gary, just a final word from you before we let you go, because I'd like to know why you think our listeners should join with us and support Point of View.
Well, Point of View is literally irreplaceable. It has a tremendous history, and I hope at some point that history, Kerby, might end up getting written about all that's happened over the last 45 years. My wife Carol and I celebrated our 45th wedding anniversary last Saturday, and I think actually Point of View has aged better than we have. So it's seriously, I wish I could talk to each one of your listeners personally and recount to them all the times over the years I've been in Washington that when all else failed to get the word out, I was able to do it through Point of View. So I would just add my voice to yours, Kerby, and to you, Brad, and saying to all you good people out there, don't take this wonderful show for granted. Show these folks right now that you appreciate what they're doing, you appreciate the information. I'll guarantee you if you do that, there will be many days, weeks, months, and years ahead where Point of View will be there when the emergency happens, when the big battle's raging, in order to make sure we win these battles and preserve this great country as a shining city upon a hill.
Gary, always great to have you on the program. Thank you for your partnership. May the Lord bless you, and I will certainly encourage people to find out more about the end-of-day report. We have those links on our website, pointofview.net.
Thanks, Gary. It was great.
Gary, again, Brad, we only have a few minutes, actually 1 minute left.
Yes.
And as we go off the air, you can still give us a call, but we really need to hear from you to finish off this match.
We want to get the match finished up. 1-800-347-5151. There's a dollar-for-dollar match. Started at $8,000. It's down to still a little to go. Not quite sure where we're at. We're tabulating, but please don't stop calling. And we really need to hear from you. 1-800-347-5151. You can also go online to pointofview.net.
If you appreciated the conversation today with Gary Bauer, we need to hear from you. Tomorrow, of course, we will have our roundtable. Penna Dexter, Kelly Shackelford, Brad will be with us as well as we wind down Truth Team 360. But we don't want you to wait any longer. We need to hear from you today. If you've been waiting, it's now to the last few minutes and the last few seconds. 800-347-5151. Brad, what would you say?
We're not winding down. We're winding up tomorrow, my friend. We are going for the goal line. 1-800-347-5151. Pointofview.net. Let's hear from every one of you.
Wonder, how much can I really do to change the future? I'm one person, just one. Let me tell you, when you step up today, right now, and give to Point of View, it will amplify your voice like few things can. Your gift will impact more than 1 million people. In fact, nearly 1.5 million people who, like you, believe something in our nation needs to change. Help equip others to stand for biblical values. Be the change we need. And one other person will double the impact of your gift up to $8,000. When you step up with $30 a month, it becomes $720 over the next year. But you have to call now. This match expires today. Visit pointofview.net/team. Choose your level of giving, remembering that whatever you invest will be doubled up to $8,000 today. Pointofview.net/team or call 1-800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. You can do a lot when you step up now. Pointofview.net/team. Point of View will continue after this.